Hey, jabroni, open the window.
I'm awfully sorry.
I didn't ask your opinion. I've got 3 kids in there scared half to death because some bald-headed turd is shooting at them.
No, sir, we were playing cowboys and Indians.
Have you heard of Columbine? It's idiots like you that cause this whole society to be going crazy with violence.
No, I'm not a violent.
Shut up. You know what you're looking at? You were looking at 245 pounds of twisted steel and drop your bony butt to the curb appeal. I will body slam you so hard that you will poop your bald pants. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
So, episode 2 of season 2.
Yes.
Thor.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I have a nephew whose name is Thor, but it's pronounced Tor.
Basically, if I said that, you should definitely not believe me.
But I'm telling you the truth.
I know you're telling me the truth, but that is insanity.
And we started
By the way,
out...
I was just in the bathroom, and they had sugarcane toilet seat covers.
Sugarcane?
Yeah. And
You're supposed to lick the toilet?
No, I ate one. It was sweet and delicious.
So we start out, and Larry is meeting Jeff at a hotel coffee shop.
Right.
And clearly it's a hotel. You could tell it's a hotel.
Right.
And Jeff tells Larry that...
Hold on one second here. Where is it me or is Larry wearing something? Because I made a note. Collar is huge. I think it was me. In that scene, I'm looking at the shirt, and the collar is so not even of its time then.
I was just going to say, was that of its time?
No, it was, collars were like that since maybe the 70s, and it's gigantic and pointy on the end. Okay.
Wardrobe is so important.
Right.
In all kinds of shows.
Well, by the way, our wardrobe person, I just complimented her the other day about what you were wearing.
Our wardrobe person now.
Yeah.
Yes, Leslie Schilling, who is brilliant.
No, but by the way, she actually is. All your outfits are, you stop in your tracks and you go, what the fuck?
You complimented her on that pearl outfit, I bet.
The one you just wore.
Yeah.
Because she clearly devised that outfit.
Yes,
and you'll
she did.
see it obviously this season when it comes out. And it's just, if I may, it was hilarious, but subtle.
But subtle, exactly.
No, but hilarious. And so subtle with your outfits.
There are times in fittings when we'll put things together. And my fittings are very fun, by the way.
Yeah, I imagine.
And we'll put things together and we'll look at each other and we'll say too much. And then we laugh because it's like, is it ever too much for Susie? And yes, it is sometimes too much for Susie.
The joke becomes obvious.
Exactly.
So
the subtlety is very important.
What did you wear early in this season that just killed me?
I know what it was.
What was it?
It was that chartreuse outfit.
Yeah, oh, yes. I mean, that was like, I couldn't even look at you without laughing. All right.
Okay, so you inform Larry that you have left Susie. Now, what's interesting is Anna had a note and a question saying, why would we divorce so early in the season? And the response is, my character was not necessarily, I didn't know that my character was going to be here 12 seasons later.
Well, by the way, we saw who your character, the doll, but before that, this is the first true Susie moment.
Well, when The Wire, when the Fresh Air in season 1, when the Fresh Air kid, robs our house.
Yeah, but by the way, anybody would
be upset by that. Correct.
Shit. This one, you've kicked him out. We'll get to it, but you are furious and you take it on Larry, and he doesn't want to do this. That's why it's the favor, if you will. So it's pretty amazing.
It's starting to develop, but the answer to that question, Anna, is I was a day player. I had no contract. I didn't know from season to season if I was going to be in the show, how many episodes I was going to be in. Not until way, way later was I a regular.
Opinion.
What?
I think it was well thought out and well planned that we would have at this point, when he wrote it, he knew it would be good for the episode and there was no thought.
Correct.
But you say day player like it could have ended. No, it was working clearly. Larry David is not stupid, and so there was no risk. It was like, let's try this. I think it's hilarious. And it was.
It was.
And then that flipped the dominoes, if you will, for the way you are all the way through to today.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, by the way, can I also say...
But I don't think that there was a plan in Larry's head that, because every season we never knew we were going to do another season.
Never. But also, there wasn't the specific plan to where we've ended up today. But it was a spark in his eye that he saw,
Yes.
And
yes.
But by the way, I was thinking yesterday when we filmed that scene by the staircase, and ultimately you tell him to leave the house, he still, after all these years, loses it. He can't control laughing.
He starts laughing.
When you start saying that to him, he just falls apart.
I know.
And
how many times have I kicked him out of the house, which is my favorite thing to do?
The first one, I think, was the house tour, if I'm not mistaken. That was the first time where you said, get out, that I remember.
We'll see. We'll
find out. These are all we'll find outs. But the fact that you kill him on that all these years, because the first time you did it, he couldn't control himself.
Yeah.
Now he still laughs really hard.
Well, the fact that I make Larry laugh has given me a job all these years.
Yes.
So Jeff and Susie are getting a divorce, and Jeff is afraid that Susie is going to tell people about his sexual peccadillos.
The deviance. Which sets a tone for the episode.
It does, and it's about sexual blackmail.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting subject because I've experienced this where people have told me sexual peccadillos about exes, and I think it's so wrong. It is so wrong.
No, I've been the victim of that. In other words, being told, and you're like, no. Don't tell me. And by the way, if a friend's cheating on his wife, do not tell me.
Yeah.
I really like and respect. And if I hate their wife, I say good for you. But most of the time...
You don't want the information.
No. And even then, you don't want the information. So it's like, I really dig and respect your wife. I don't want this information in my head when I talk to her next time because it's just going to be pity.
Or I had somebody tell me once this is many, many years ago, way before my husband, Jimmy, tell me, I started dating this guy and an ex-girlfriend of his told me intimate things about his sexuality.
Well, that's just cruel.
It was cruel, and it made me dislike her intensely.
Oh, by the way, how could you not?
Yeah.
So you always say this very too much information.
Yeah.
That's information that is unnecessary. Too much unnecessary.
It's gratuitous.
It's wrong. Big bowl of wrong.
But Jeff is afraid that Susie is going to turn him in and sexual blackmail. And Larry says, that's why he's never done anything remotely kinky.
And by the way, he's completely...
Been on the bottom is the kinkiest he's ever done.
But by the way, in that conversation, he is so curious as to what I might be doing.
Well, I think your character in many episodes acts out his fantasies for him.
Most certainly.
Yeah. And then you say to him, not even with your wife, and he says, I treat her like an acquaintance. She has nothing to say at all. I treat her like an acquaintance.
By the way, Richard Lewis, Larry David, they come up with this stuff where you go, where did that come from?
Yeah.
How did you...
You do too.
Yes, but I can't be amazed at my own skill at it.
Well, because you're thinking it.
Yeah, because I think it, I say it.
But the truth of the matter is, all of us come up with stuff.
Things, yeah. Where did you pull that out? What crevice was that pulled out of?
I mean,
by the way, what's her name is doing the show now?
Tracy Ullman.
Tracy Ullman's back.
Oh my God! And I was just going to say that about Vince Vaughn.
Right.
Pull stuff out. Where does this come from?
Yeah.
Tracy. Oh God, she's brilliant.
A couple of them. The going to the being drunk and going to the city council meeting and saying what you. I don't want to tell you because I want you to know, but I want them to watch it and be surprised by it. But she says two things in the episode we're working on, in two different scenes. No, same scene. She says these two gems that Larry and I were talking about it, laughing.
Yeah.
Because it was like, wow, where did that come from?
She's
so
quite
specific.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
she's quite brilliant.
And she's delightful.
And this is not something...
As I'm apt to add about people.
And it's not something you can teach.
No. No. That you cannot teach. That's why Larry and Richard, where they come up with these phrases. What were you playing cards with Mengele? Wasn't that from last season when he was racist or something? Larry met the guy on the beach, the black.
Yeah.
But anyhow, these are. I treat her as an acquaintance.
Hilarious.
And he made it up in the moment. That's what you're like, what? It's not in the script.
No, well,
And our
nothing
scripts,
really
by
is.
the way, well, now they're much longer. But back in those days, they were like 7 pages long.
They were 7 pages long.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now they're in the 20s.
So now Jeff asks Larry to do him a huge favor because Jeff is now living in the hotel and he wants Larry to go pick up his clothes and bring his clothes to the hotel. And Larry asks if Susie will be home, and Jeff says yes, and Larry says, she'll eat me alive about Susie. And
Which, as I'm saying,
I always love when my character is talked about.
Right, that's got to be fun.
I always
But by the
enjoy
way,
that.
Look at him sending out a message of the way he's going to develop your character
Right.
when he says, she'll eat me alive. He's establishing what you're about to do. And that's what I'm saying. The other appearances, you're angry at the Fresh Air Fund, but
The other
so
I was
nice
in
with my
the normal-
parents.
right.
You were very nice.
And it is in this season later on when we'll get to it in the
Well,
doll.
the moment.
When it's really established. It's one of the reasons why the doll is my favorite episode, because it's when you really establish the fear that Jeff and Larry
By the way,
live in.
Huge fear.
Yeah.
Huge fear.
Of Susie.
By the way, we can't even speak in front of you sometimes.
That's right.
And we even just
And I
filmed one.
enjoy that.
We filmed one yesterday.
Yes, we
where
did.
we got painted into a corner and we didn't know what to do, and we looked at each other and we had to come up with some stupid bullshit.
And it's always, and I see right through you too.
Yeah, by the way, you said that right away. And you've said that many times before.
So Larry is now home. Larry says he will do the favor.
Yeah.
And Larry's now home, and Cheryl is, they're sitting around at breakfast or something eating, and Cheryl, is reading an article about AAA.
Oh, yeah.
And the political agenda of AAA about their environmental and the
By the
pollution.
way, that had the idea.
That
had
was
to come,
definitely based on Larry's wife, who was the
Lori
ex-wife,
David, yeah.
who was a
No, but
very
not even based. I actually asked. That's fact. That was
Fact.
at that time. I don't know what they are now, but at that time, that was factual information.
And Lori was a huge environmentalist,
yeah, but
and she
I'm
made a whole movie
guaranteeing
about
that
it.
Larry heard that exact information
From Lori saying
yeah.
that AAA, destroys the environment, and they just want to get more members and more people driving and pollution and et cetera, et cetera. And Cheryl then, goes off on a tirade about this.
But by the way, he took it as if she's going blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
He didn't even pay attention.
Didn't even pay attention because
He
he's
knew
a married
it was
man.
AAA, and something's wrong with AAA.
Right.
He's not going to hang on every note of that information.
And then and he's not really responding. And then Cheryl says to him,
Why are you so quiet?
Oh, quiet. You're reading.
Are you thinking about sex?
What the hell are you talking about now?
Whenever you're quiet, you're usually thinking about sex.
I'm not thinking about sex. And that's
You're not?
kind of.
You're not thinking about a
Crazy.
little afternoon sex or something? I'm just curious. It's kind of kinky.
You think I'm kinky?
Do you think you're kinky?
Well, you just said that's kind of kinky. You think
Well,
I'm kinky? I'm
for
not
you.
kinky.
I'm just saying. For you to want to have sex in the afternoon is kind of crazy.
First of all, I didn't say I wanted to have sex in the afternoon, did I? That's what you said. Why do you
There's
say
a lot
that?
going on in there that you don't ever.
Like sick things going on? Is that what you
I
think?
didn't say sick.
You think there's sick, twisted things going on?
Are there sick, twisted things going on?
No, not at all.
why are you so quiet? What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about sex? No, I'm not
right,
thinking
he
about
jumps
sex.
right to that.
And then
yeah.
because he's afraid of the sexual blackmail. We've
Yeah.
already established that. And then she says, are you thinking about afternoon sex?
What she clearly wants in this scene.
Yes.
And he doesn't do it because he was just, I
Well,
might
she
do
says
something.
to him, she says, whenever you're quiet, you're thinking about sex. And then she says, the afternoon sex kind of kinky. And she's saying that in a foreplay kind of playful
Yeah.
way. And right away he gets defensive. I'm not kinky. And he gets like fearful and defensive with his own wife because he treats her like an acquaintance.
Right.
And Larry says to her, you think there are sick, twisted things going on? And he's thinking about you, obviously. And then that whole scene is so funny.
Yeah.
And then he goes to call Jason to talk about the show. And this is where they establish this whole thing. And Jason asks Larry to come to his office.
Right. Which,
And
by
what
the
happens?
way,
Which is in the valley, which we know Larry lives on the west side.
Yeah.
And it's far, and it's a
in
schlep.
Studio City.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is this when his tire goes out? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? You get to that, and then
Okay. And Larry's like, it's never in Larry's office. He never has a meeting. He's never. I'm always traveling. And he's nonplussed that he has to schlep to Jason's office.
Mm-hmm.
But he does, because he's accommodating. And as he's driving to go meet Jason in his office, he drives past Wanda doing a power walk in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And he yells out at her, quite innocently, I must say.
Very much. He was being brave.
I'd know that tush anywhere.
Yeah.
And
He's not being lecherous at all.
I don't think he's being lecherous one iota.
Yeah.
He's being, it's something I would say to somebody.
Right.
A friend. So, and she just keeps walking and just whatever. And then he's driving along and there are kids in the back of a station wagon. What kind of car was that? It's an old, one of those wood-paneled station wagons.
It was like a woody station wagon.
Wagoneer or something.
Yeah, Wagoneer.
I remember so well sitting in the back of the station wagon making faces out the back window. I mean, of my childhood. I remember that.
By the way, it brings up nausea to me.
Why?
I was in a car accident, sitting in the back.
Can I just say to our audience, because some of you might be young, not only did we not have car seats for kids, we didn't have seatbelts.
No, which were great because when your mom wanted to hit you in the back seat,
you would just go into the well.
You would move all over.
Exactly.
You had freedom.
But we would be just flailing around back there. There was no seatbelts.
Yeah.
Just flailing around.
So I got into an accident, and I remember I'd come from an ice cream place. We had crossed this intersection. We were hit. The back opened up, and my cousin and I flew out of the back seat, about that rear kid seat, maybe, I'll say 50 yards, and landed on Pebble. And so I had a lot of,
How old were you?
10.
Uh-huh.
And I got, I got cut up pretty good, but I was fine. I remember laying on the ground going, Mommy, Mom, I know. But what I want to say is I even remember flying in the air and seeing him flying in the air next to me.
Was he okay?
He was fine too.
You were both okay.
And
it was traumatizing because you remember saying Mommy.
It was all very, it all stays with me, every detail.
Maybe that was the beginning, Jeff.
Of what?
Whatever.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Some kind of neuroses or some kind of...
Oh, that's what you're talking about. And by the way, is that a neuroses?
Or
when you think about a car accident? I think that's
some
normal.
kind of fear, some kind of mommy issue, some kind of, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out.
All right. All that didn't come to fruition until I was in my 20s. And by the way, when I look back at my
It was repressed.
No, there was nothing really repressed at that age. But starting in high school, it became a lot of noise in my head. And then later on, it was addressed.
It was the pebbles.
You're hooking on this accident that caused brain injury.
Yeah, we'll see.
I was different.
We'll see.
Wait a minute, it's not a future episode. What do you keep saying, we'll see? Leave me alone.
All right, so the three boys are in the back of the station wagon making faces at Larry, and Larry starts to play along with them.
Right.
Making faces,
By
being
the way,
silly.
He's really being sweet and funny.
He's enjoying it.
He's
enjoying it. And then he starts, I forgot who started with the shooting.
It was Larry.
Larry starts with the shooting, fake shooting.
No, the kids did.
The kids, okay. Kids start with the fake shooting. Larry starts with the fake shooting. And all of a sudden you see the kid's face change. They seem upset, and they turn around.
I always read it as they were getting their father to be worked up to do something.
Yes, I think so too.
I don't think they were freaked out because he'd been playing with them, but I think they're like, we're going to get this guy.
Yeah. Bratty little kids. And this is something that I noticed that I had forgotten about. The car stops. And then we hear that spaghetti western
and we
music.
see the feet. That's where it starts.
We see the cowboy boots. We see the cowboy boots, and I didn't know that spaghetti western music was used because that then became my theme.
Right, without a doubt.
So I was a little upset.
And by the way, when he was
already.
walking towards the car, he was a big guy and obviously well built when we filmed it, and obviously a nice man. But that being said, when he first got out and he's walking towards Larry, I'm like, is Larry peeing in his pants? This guy's gigantic.
Gigantic. Well, Larry rolls up the window.
Yeah.
He rolls up the window like the coward that he is. And, the cowardliness is such a comedic, all the way back to Bob Hope and back Jack Benny and all of those guys had that. Woody Allen, they all played that cowardly role, which is comedic gold.
Always, yeah, it is really funny. Yeah.
And this guy, long blonde
because
hair.
I'm big and powerful and just a strong, imposing man doesn't work for me.
Big and powerful.
Big and powerful.
Okay,
yeah.
Imposing. And this guy, long blonde hair, clearly buff.
But he does look like a professional wrestler.
He does.
I think that's why we hired him. We looked at a lot of people who, Larry wanted to establish the second we see him, like, oh, is this guy a professional wrestler? Because the other guys were big, whatever, but they didn't have that groove like this guy had.
The long hair.
Well, the whole thing.
The Viking look.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah. And he calls Larry a bald turd, and he tells him he's going to
But he's talking to him like a wrestling show.
Yeah, exactly.
He's talking to him like, there's a guy named Gordon Soley when I was a kid in Florida. He announced, I'm Gordon Soley. And he'd have a wrestler on each side of him arguing with each other, and that was like taken straight from that. It might have even been dialogue that he'd done before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think, not in real life, but I'm saying in terms of...
This guy wasn't really a wrestler, was he? The actor?
I think he was just a gentle lovemaker.
Okay. Same. One does not preclude the other. And Larry's traumatized because this big man is threatening him and he's going to stick his finger up his sphincter. And we move on?
Hold on. No, we don't move on. He disappears behind the car, the wrestler, before we move on. And remember, Larry's like looking, what did he possibly do disappearing behind my car?
That's right.
And we're about to find out.
Right. He disappears behind Larry's car, and we don't know what he did. But soon Larry hears a little rattling sound, and he's got a flat tire. Obviously, this guy let the air out, slashed his tire, something. And Larry then decides to call AAA. Because what do you do when you have a flat tire?
Yes.
But AAA has been canceled. And apparently his wife canceled it, who she had no authorization to cancel. And he tries to re-up it, but he can't. And so he decides he's going to change his own tire. He opens his trunk, clueless, which he, in real life, I believe, would be.
Yes. Well, by the way,
he's
that's
clueless
not a
about
stretch.
most things. Yes.
Anything mechanical, it's a stretch. It's not a stretch to think he couldn't do it.
There's a whole scene, different people walk by, one of which was Dort, who was our prop master at the time.
But by the way, one of the recurring themes is someone would give him a little piece of information, but not expound
not tell
on
him how
it.
to do it. You got to loosen the lug nuts, move on.
Which is the lug nuts? What's going on?
You're going to bust your bumper, move on. I never took a shop class. And then he starts to offer people money to trade $35.
And he goes up. It's 30 and then 35.
And then just $10 for a verbal response.
Yeah,
and it's just on. And it's really, it's a hilarious scene and just establishing the Larry-ness of his life and how he's, his wife is sabotaging him. Then he shows up at Jason's office and he's filthy from trying to change
grease on his face, dirt,
from trying to change change the dryer, the tire. And Jason knows who this guy is because he tells him about the license plate said Thor. And Jason said, oh, that's Thor Olsen. He's a professional wrestler, he tells Larry. And and also then another important thing that's established, he sees the ticket on Jason's desk, the ticket from the camera.
Oh, yeah. He hands Larry that. What is that? I hate taking pictures. This is the domino effect of Larry's writing.
Correct.
Where it goes over and
it's the light camera. There's a camera on the light.
Yeah. By the way, I had that before.
Yeah, of course. We all have.
I guess I went through a red. I did. Otherwise, I wouldn't take my picture. I went through a red light and had my picture sent to me.
Yeah.
And by the way, Nobody looks really good in those
Well,
pictures.
Jason even
They don't
says,
even get-
Jesus, I'm fat,
Yeah.
when he looks at the picture. This is a fantastic scene
Right.
with Jason. Larry's all famished from the
Right,
tire and
yes.
everything, and they're gonna make the meeting tomorrow.
Right.
And then they go back and forth about whose office they're gonna have the meeting in. And this is a Jason brilliant scene, I think, don't you?
By the way, the way he plays it is so...
Yeah, we made a plan and the plan didn't work. And so you'll come back and we'll do it. First, we're going to do the plan. And it's back and forth and back and forth and back. And it's a brilliant little piece of improv, this scene.
We made a plan.
I understand,
we set
but-
a plan. We
yeah.
said, we'll meet at my office.
Right.
And we'll have a meeting.
Yes.
That's the plan. That hasn't been accomplished. Let's
No,
accomplish that. That's all I'm
but we
saying.
attempted to have the meeting, but it was
We
aborted.
attempted and we failed. Let's have that meeting. Let's have that meeting.
We're having that meeting right now.
This is not a meeting about the show. This is a meeting about having a meeting.
I know, but the intention is the same. Don't you understand? I drove here with the same intention.
The driving
of
is
having
not the meeting,
The
Larry.
driving is what we're talking.
The driving is
what we're talking about.
You keep coming back to this insane thing with
because
driving.
Yes.
Driving is not the issue. Did we make
I think driving is the issue.
We
It doesn't
had a
make any sense at
singular
all.
plan. We were going to have a meeting about
Yeah,
the show
okay,
in my
so
office.
we're having a meeting.
You can drive around the world. We still haven't had a meeting.
So this scene, here's my last episode. I gave my fun fact thing, and that's this scene. This scene we started filming after lunch, 2:30, 3 o'clock. In the morning, we had shot the scene because it was right outside of Jason's office where we did the tire thing, which
Right.
is where he was. So we'd done that earlier, and they're in the office, and Larry couldn't control his laughing.
Doing this
Including
scene.
Jason pointing out why he's dirty. Jason saying everything he said to him. Larry was tickled. The scene started out, it's supposed to be day, but we went into the night because it's the hardest I've ever seen Larry laugh for an extended period. He cost us, I'm not even kidding, maybe 2 hours of his laughing because he couldn't recover.
Yeah.
It wasn't like laugh and go back, which is normal for him, but not like this because he knew he loves when the
I've
other
seen him
person.
not recover for many, many takes.
Oh, yes, but I'm telling you, Susie, this was beyond anything I'd ever experienced with him. Yeah, but so we had to light the outside to look like day, yet it's pitch black out. Like it took that long. But Larry loves, this is the thing with you. Larry loves when other characters see the insaneness of what Larry's doing and point it out to him. So you won't see this on camera, but off camera, Larry giggles and he just loves that. This was insanity.
Okay.
This was actually people getting mad at him. Because it was like, what the fuck? What the
Stop.
fuck? And I would say...
Get professional.
I would say to Larry, look at his forehead. Don't look at his face, Not that that's not part of a face. All right. I hope that was a fun fact
But
for everyone.
this-
There might be future fun facts. I'm not going to guarantee it. The only thing I guarantee is that... I don't remember the guarantee I made last year. Money back guarantee.
Money back.
But on what? Oh, the podcast.
I don't
if you
remember. But this scene in particular struck me as just, this is why we improvise this show.
Yes. But by the way, a thing of beauty.
Yeah, it was a thing of beauty.
I love that scene so much.
And you improv people out there, watch that scene.
Right.
And learn. I don't know what you could learn because you don't have Jason and Larry's brains, but whatever.
Well, by the way, I want to comment on that. I want to make it really clear that some of you listening who know in your gut that you do have that kind of brain, you're lucky and you really do have it. Tim Kazurinsky, an old friend of mine, Second City, Saturday Night Live, he was doing...
And has been on Curb.
Has been on Curb, yes, as, what's his name?
Hugh.
Hugh.
Yeah.
He spoke at Second City when I was a young improviser there. And all these improvisers were in a room, hanging on his every word. This guy was on Saturday Night Live. He had a huge part in Neighbors. Anyhow, loved it. Someone brings up, they asking about Eddie Murphy. And he says, let me tell you all something. There are no other better improvisers, better actors, and all of you will never come close. He said this, And I only wanted to yell I swear, this overcame me, but I didn't do it. Considering I have ADHD, it was amazing I didn't do it. But I wanted to yell, oh, I do. I will. And by the way, having done a movie with Eddie Murphy, yes, I was in awe of his talent, where it made me think, like, how the fuck does he do that? But I held my own with him. And, the way he said that, none of you will come close.
Before I started doing stand-up, and I was lost. I was had no idea what I was supposed to do. I thought I wanted to be an actress, and I would take acting class, and I was totally bored and no idea. Somebody encouraged me to take an improv class.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I took an improv class, and it was like revelatory to me. I was really good at it.
Right.
I had no idea I was good at it. You do the freeze tag, and I jump in. It was like, this is a whole part of myself I had no idea about.
Okay, you're saying this. Larry David told me yesterday that he didn't realize he was funny at all.
That's right, I was
until
there.
He got into college. Right?
Yes.
Wow. And for me, I knew I was funny starting in nursery school. Mm-hmm. And by 11th grade, it was what I was going to do. And you couldn't stop me. So every year, it was a matter of pride that I was the funniest kid in school.
Yeah, he was not that.
No, by the way, not many of our peers are that. I was lucky to know that I was on a journey that was meant to be. It would have been sad, by the way, if I was one of those unfunny people and had that feeling.
Had that thing.
And by the way, where I decided this is, maybe kind of lame, but kind of cool. I knew that I was going to move forward and do this, and I was meant to do this because after I saw the Blues Brothers, which moved me incredibly, and I felt such a kinship, and I recognized a lot of Chicago, and of course Belushi and Aykroyd, and John Candy, who wants an orange whip? Anyone orange whip? Which I've repeated that line a million times. Anyhow, when I got in the car, and two guys that I'm still friends with, the Ostrow brothers, they said, well, what did you think of it? And I, without hesitating, I said, I'm on a mission from God. They laughed. And I go, no, I'm being serious, which is a big line from the movie, We're on a Mission from God. And it becomes an epiphany for Jake, or Elwood. Elwood was Aykroyd. And so in the car, I kept saying, I'm on a mission from God. They're laughing. And I go, you don't understand. I'm on a mission from God. And they said, what is it? I'm going to be actually, I said this, which I'm embarrassed about. I'm going to be a famous comedian. And by the way, they didn't laugh when I said that.
So you had never done stand-up at this point?
No. And by the way, very, very young, my friend Robin Siegel's mother, when I was very young, 17, 18, 19, would encourage me to go up and do stand-up. And that was really daunting, the idea of doing that. But I remember her as the only person in my life that encouraged me. Not that I was discouraged by anyone else. People laughed at me, but she was the only one going, hey,
that's what you should do.
Yeah. And I listened to her finally.
I hope you thanked her.
Well, I just did on the air. Thank you.
So now we're going to get back to the episode.
Well, now you're saying that implying that I have knocked the whole show off track.
I have not.
You looked at me.
I have not implying that one iota, Jeff. You're
you
wrong.
looked at me. I thought.
No,
by the way,
wrong.
everybody who's listening, she's lying.
Didn't I say to you yesterday that I like when we go off on our tangents?
Yeah, but it didn't seem like you did. But right now, it seemed like
no,
hey, everybody,
wrong.
I'm going to get them back on track. But guess what?
Misreading.
No, I'm back on track now.
Larry goes home and he yells at Cheryl about canceling AAA. And then he says he's got to go change because he's a mess looking from changing the tire and go to Jeff's house to get his clothes. And then Cheryl says to him, why did you tell Wanda she has a big ass? And I don't think he did tell Wanda that she had a big ass.
But by the way, hold on a second. That's what it felt like to her, what she thought he was doing, which is what we live with now, and that's not even a thought of. They know you said it. I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about anybody who feels that they have been abused in that way. So everyone assumes that, and no, he meant it as a gentle joke.
Well, he says it was a friendly remark. I was being chummy.
Yeah.
He says I like big asses, he says.
Yeah.
And then they start having a fight about ass size. And then Cheryl accuses him of having an ass fetish.
Yes.
And then he gets back to, I'm not a deviant, I'm not kinky, and, all of that stuff. And which goes back to the original scene with you in the beginning about the sexual blackmail.
Right.
He's very fearful of the sexual blackmail. And then Wanda comes over, shows up, and she, starts going after him. That's how you say hello.
By the way, she walked in the door and she announced herself. This is who I am on the show. I will not change one iota from this moment until many seasons later.
Yeah.
This is what I bring, and I'm going to do it.
Wanda,
Oh, you know who I am? Okay. Thought I had to turn around and show you my big ass.
you completely misinterpreted
what?
that. I didn't.
How
I didn't
was
say you
supposed
had
to
a
turn-
big
You
ass.
yelled out, "Hey, big ass,
No,
Wanda."
I didn't say big ass. Just saying hello. I was just trying.
Is that how you say hello?
Well.
Is that a hey, big ass, or hey, assy? Hey, I know your ass. What is that? That's not how you say hello, is it?
Perhaps not.
So something about my ass has made you download it and you stored it in your memory.
No, that's not so.
What is wrong with
I
this
don't
man?
know. We were just having this
Well,
discussion.
did you tell him how wrong it is
Yeah,
to even say
believe
something
me.
like that?
I told him.
You know, a woman's ass is very personal.
I didn't know
Huh?
he was so obsessed with asses
This
until
man,
today.
you know
What?
what? You have
What
an
are you
ass
saying?
man. Larry,
I
you
know.
are an ass man.
I am not an ass man.
You are an
He has
ass
some sort of
man.
fetish
What
that I
the
didn't even know
fetish?
about until-
I
That's
don't have
something
any
new.
ass fetish, okay?
He
Let me
said
get
that.
that
Actually, you
straight.
do.
Obsessed with asses?
I'm just
I'm not
finding that
obsessed with
out,
asses.
Larry, okay, assy. And what is that shit all over you? What you been doing? Scrounging around looking for asses? All under bleachers and say, oh, where's the ass?
Exactly. You're establishing that relationship there.
But so, from the very beginning, boom. Like what Cheryl's is not the same. Yours wasn't the same. Wanda, when she comes in, boom.
Okay. So then Larry goes to our house and I answer the door. And now let me say something about my outfit here. This is when it's not fully Susie Green yet.
Right.
But it started to develop that look that I had wanted. And I remember saying to Wendy, who was our wardrobe person at the time, what I wanted this woman to look like. I had this idea and she didn't fully get it. And I remember, did I tell this story already?
No.
And I remember saying, she said to me, well, where would I wanted her to look like those Russian women in Brighton Beach in Brooklyn, who
Right.
dress in these kinds of very outrageous, out there ways. And I remember Wendy saying to me, when she was Midwestern, I believe, Wendy, I remember her saying to me, where would I get those clothes? And I said, the back room of Loman's, which no longer exists. And I had to take her on a little field trip to Loman's. She'd never heard of Loman's. So she didn't, well, whatever. A lot of people haven't at this point, but if you're my age and you grew up in New York, you know all about
This is
Loman's.
also the first episode. And later on this season, it is glued and it is established. But this is the first episode that Larry and I are scared of you.
Right.
And you hammer Larry about me and at Larry in the classic Susie way. We
That's
know
right.
it's now classic, but we have not seen
no,
it.
it
Season
was-
1, you were very nice. I mean, and you
Except
were
for that
talking-
one scene.
Yeah, with the fresh air fun kid who
But
robbed
that was
us.
deserved.
That was deserved.
Right.
Who wouldn't be excited in a situation like that?
Right.
You know.
So this is where you start to see what a crazy woman she is.
Right.
And Anna asked if that whole tirade that I did was improvised. Yes, everything is improvised.
Yeah, everything is improvised on the show.
There's a
By the
couple
way,
of things that will come up that will tell you when they happen in later seasons that were scripted for a
No,
reason.
but by the way, in terms of scripted, they're not scripted at all, but there might be a line that he writes down. And by the way, I get maybe a half dozen lines a season, so I'll be damned if I'm not going to deliver it perfect. And it's usually a line, not even, a paragraph.
What do you mean? A line
In other
that's
words,
scripted that
that's
has to
in
be
the
said.
outline.
Yes.
There's a line Jeff says, which
Right.
rarely
Right.
appears. So when he writes that, I feel a sense of duty
to say that
to
line.
say that line
I'll get
perfectly.
lines like that where it'll be like, Susie tells Larry to go fuck himself. Those are
Right.
the lines that I get, which I
Right.
usually do anyway. I answer the door. Susie answers the door. Oh, Jeff's messenger boy is
Yeah.
here. From
the top, right
from the
there,
top,
that line.
From the top.
We know what's going on.
And, on and on about your little bimbo actresses, you're getting blowjobs. And Larry's like, no. And then I hand Larry your porn stash. And on the porn stash.
Which comes up later.
In another episode.
Yeah.
Not even the season.
Right.
And we focus on Big Ass Mama. Was in your. Oh, well, actually, there was the porn stash in the Porno Gill episode.
Was that the one where I had a heart
one.
attack and I told him to get it out?
Yes.
Is that we already passed that?
Yeah, we did that.
And
in
then he
season
says,
1.
"I know that guy." When my parents walk in.
Yes, that was the Odenkirk character.
I don't remember discussing that particular scene.
Yeah, we did.
Especially. And by the way, there's some great things from Louis in this episode. Again, Louis Nye.
Oh yeah. Well, we get to that. The rotten. I love the rotten. You're into that big ass stuff. No, I recognize that woman. And then I go into this whole how you defile me and you violate me. You know what Jeff does? I do the sexual blackmail. Exactly
and
what you're
Larry's
afraid of.
Reaction? No. I don't want to hear. Please, I beg of you.
And while we're in the middle of this, who walks in? Your parents.
But it's not while we're in the middle. We go down. You go downstairs with Larry. You open the door, and there are your in-laws whose child you just kicked out of your house.
Kicked out, and they're worried.
But by the way, you're so kind to them.
Well, I have a relationship with them.
I'm saying
the juxtaposition.
Which is interesting.
And Louis Nye, who plays your dad, I don't know that we ever had names for them, did we? For your parents?
I don't remember.
Mom and Dad, we just call them. You've done something rotten.
But that's his opening line. And the way he says rotten. By the way, I'm watching it now and I'm laughing hard at the way he says rotten. Yeah, I mean.
He was great. That was great casting for him as your father.
Oh my God.
And mine
I told that story already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We loved him. And then Mina wants to go with Larry.
Right.
To the hotel to see her little baby boy she's so worried about. And Louis stays with me.
Why did you have to put those clothes of Jeff's, just throw them in the bag? Why did you have to throw them in the trunk on top of a dirty old tire? Why?
There's obviously something wrong with
That's the question.
Yeah, what is wrong with it?
Why would anybody do that? Person wouldn't do that.
And I don't have a closet in my house. I'm just used to throwing things around like that.
And throwing them on the floor.
I throw them on the floor. That's how all my clothes are at home, all on the floor. I don't even have a bed. I sleep on a big pile of clothes.
Well, it's just disgusting.
I'm a disgusting man.
Well, I can see that.
Why? She's in the car. She's hilarious with him in the car.
And he's doing his best to ignore.
Why did you throw those clothes on the floor?
She's not his mother-in-law, and he still is dealing with it in a way of like, kill me.
Exactly. Well, she is the mother-in-law.
And
you know what I mean?
Kolb.
Terrific.
Magic.
And he says to her, but she's like, why? He says, I'm a disgusting man. He says.
Yeah, he starts playing with her questions.
And then I forget why she wanted to look for a pen. Do you remember why she wanted to look for a pen?
No, there was something. She saw a sign.
That's right. She wanted to write something down, so she wants to look for a pen. So she turns around to go into the back seat.
No, but Larry tells her there's a pen in the back seat.
The pen in the back seat. And her ass is in the air while she's rummaging around in the back seat.
And Larry
for a
makes
pen.
a face, having no idea where this is going to lead.
Where this is going.
Yeah.
And then they get to the hotel. And Larry, he carries the clothes in, and mine, your mother's just rambling. And then he sees Thor in the hotel. And Jason had established, we hadn't said this, that there was a wrestling match in town.
But yes, but also we're skipping that in the parking lot when he parked.
He saw the car.
He saw the station wagon.
The station wagon with Thor. And again, Jason had established that there's a big wrestling convention or meet or whatever they call it.
At the Staples Center. No, it was a match.
A match, okay. And mine is beautiful hotel, blah. She goes up to the room. Then you come down.
No, I'm not up. I don't go up in the room. I send her up with the guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You were down and you meet them, and then you send her up to the hotel with your clothes.
I didn't come down. Yeah,
and then Larry spots Thor, and he says to you, "Remember, you said you owed me one. I'm going to take you up on it." Yeah. And you know, it's a bizarre request. He wants you to let the air out of the tires.
Right.
By
the way,
and go do it now, he says.
I don't
You were
argue
very
with it.
accommodating.
But yeah, because a word's a word.
That's right. And also, this is your relationship with him.
Yes.
You're best friends, you manager, client.
Mostly it's me getting him in trouble, but quite often he gets me in trouble.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it's you two in cahoots always.
Yeah.
And
especially a scene with you.
Yeah, right. He tells you, go do it now. And then he watches Thor walk away and he goes to talk to the kids.
Which is that voice that he uses when he knows he's full of shit.
Right.
The nodding, the smile, and
wrestling is fixed.
Yeah. Your dad's an actor.
Yes.
The
winners are predetermined.
And it also goes to show, and I do agree, the kids don't recognize him because they only saw him through the car, but I guarantee they do that to a lot of people. Make the
faces in the
and
car,
say
yes.
something because they're entertained by their dad's reaction, but they're horrified. He has met them, and even when he walks away, the look on their faces is like...
Well, they thought their dad was something, and now he's telling their dad... They're telling them that their dad is a fake.
They're going to ask him about it now, which he's not going to enjoy. However, you feel like... Is he going to walk in on Larry? Like there's tension there.
Yeah, there's a lot of tension.
Right there.
I was watching it, even knowing what the ending is, although I forget half the time what's going to happen. This was so long ago. I was feeling him, the idea of him turning around and seeing him standing there.
Right.
It was set up that way. But that's not what happened.
No.
What happens is you are outside letting the air out of the tires, and then we see those cowboy boots.
Yeah.
Standing right there.
And by the way, I thought as I'm watching it, I think it's wonderful that I'm silent.
Of course, I totally agree.
And I may have done it in the scene, but one of the things that I do on the show is when I'm caught, I go, hey.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to the person, but I didn't or we kept it out.
I think he was too intimidating to do that.
Well, I think that I at least did one take where I didn't say anything, and that's what they use. That's quite often.
Quite often we give a variety. Well, not quite often. Almost always.
Yeah, we do.
We give a variety of choices. Yeah. And then you see in editing, it's a completely different thing because you see the flow of something and the rhythm of something.
By the way, you know what's fun about us doing something different? When most of the guest actors that come on the show do the same thing every take. So for us, we can rely on knowing that pitch is coming. Like they're going to say that and I'm going to be ready.
Try something different.
But I'm not thinking ahead of time what I'm going to say. I just know they're going to say that again.
It's hard sometimes to say the same thing take after take
well,
after
by the way,
take.
Not hard sometimes. That's been my problem doing stand-up for 40 years.
Of course.
And doing all right, I did a few one-man shows in Chicago. So I did this one-man show. My first one, I Want Someone to Eat Cheese With. And it was very successful. It kept on moving to bigger theaters. And I hated the sound of my voice. I had so much trouble doing it the same way. So I began improvising. And by the end of the run, I don't know what was even left from the beginning of the run. Well, during this time, Jackie Mason was in town doing a one-man show. So I was invited backstage, and Jackie and I are talking about the one-man shows, blah-de-de-blah. And I tell him that I'm having trouble with my show because I can't stay focused on the words. Yeah. I got to change everything. And he says to me, "What are you, a schmuck? You're a schmuck. You got a hit show and you're messing around with it? You're a schmuck." Well, for the rest of my career, I've continued to be a schmuck. But
he was old school, Jackie Mason.
But also... very funny.
We were talking brilliantly funny. Yeah. And that first show he did, that first Broadway show he did was
amazing.
Was so fun. One of the funniest things.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why it was so brilliant was because it was years and years and years of material that he had honed. The subsequent shows were not as good.
Right.
Because
they were
still very funny.
Yeah,
but we were talking about this on set yesterday. Maybe you weren't there. I forgot who I was talking to.
Well, by the way, it was Jackie Mason. I wasn't there.
No, we weren't talking about Jackie Mason. We were talking about different stand-ups, and some stand-ups know exactly when they get on stage, they know exactly what they're going to do and what order they're going to do. And I I used to know what my opening line was going to be because I was too nervous not to know. But that was all I ever knew. Beyond that, I never knew an order. I never had a preconceived notion of what I was going to do. It would just all happen in that moment on stage. You and I work similarly in that way. A lot of comics work our way, and a lot of comics, there's no right or wrong. It's just different.
Well, I'm actually envious of anyone who can do a full set.
Do an A to Z.
Yeah.
I tried it when I would have so much anxiety doing stand-up, and part of it was because of the way I worked.
Right.
And I thought, well, maybe if I had a set, I wouldn't feel so anxious and it wouldn't be so stressful. And I tried it that way, and I was incapable of doing it. I was incapable. It wasn't interesting to me. It wasn't creative to me. It just didn't work for me. So you have to know who you are.
By the way, do you know who set me on the path of the structure of which I use today? Don Rickles. Mm-hmm. I became friendly with Don, but
I'll bet you he never had an A to Z.
No,
what
he
was
had a different approach. So we're at the Toy Story 3 dinner. There was a dinner before the movie came out, and he actually requested for me to sit next to him. And we weren't tight at this point, so I obviously was so.
Of course,
I didn't even know what I was.
He was an idol of ours as a kid. Idol.
So I was like, really? I didn't believe it. And I sat next to him. He was so happy, and with his wife and Barbara and Marla was there. But Marla knew sitting there that I was not going to be available to her at any point during that meal. And we talked and talked, and then he told me the structure that he uses,
which is what
you go up and you hit him hard.
Yeah.
Jack Benny has another piece of advice. Didn't give it to me, but I heard it, and I follow that. That's the only deviation. You go out and hit him hard with the best you got. Then you do whatever you want, and you end with your rabbi piece. By rabbi piece, he meant a very sincere, kind, for me, not maudlin.
He could get a little maudlin, but that was a time period.
Time.
Yeah, generation.
But
we kid because we love.
We kid, but every time I close my show now, and I'm totally sincere, I thank the audience. How much they've meant to me, and I hope I've meant something to you. And then my last line is, all right, now back to my life of shame and regret.
Right, you said that.
Yeah. So that's a structure I use. The one other thing that I took, there's these comedy recordings with all the great comedians being interviewed.
Oh, really?
And Jack Benny talked about, he would watch comedians and knew they were not going to go anywhere. And he was asked why. He said because they go up and they go right into their act. When you go out,
they don't feel what the audience needs and who the audience is.
Well, by the way, it's not even the audience. You want the audience. What is the audience? They want the audience to get a sense of you and where you're at on that particular night. Get to know you just a little bit. See that you're human, and then hit them with your hard stuff.
But it's also, the audiences are so interesting, and this is something we could talk about for hours. But from the second you walk on the stage, the audience has a feeling about
Without
you.
a doubt.
From the way you take the mic, from the way you stay, and you. For me, it was always that you have to have confidence from the minute you walk on that stage.
Without a doubt. But
and
by
they'll
the way,
smell it if you don't.
But the exception is, if you're famous, they'll give you about a minute. You got a minute's reprieve.
And by the way, a minute,
they're gonna,
60 seconds is a long time.
But they'll give you that minute, which is very generous because they dig you in whatever role you play. Right. But after that minute,
you better deliver.
Hate your guts.
That's right. You better deliver.
Yeah.
And you have to be in control.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But you have to be vulnerable and confident at the same time. For me, you do.
It's a hard job.
Okay, back to the show.
So we're almost done. I mean, so we see you're letting the air out of Thor's tires. He walks up. That's it. We don't need to know if he beat the shit out of you. He's obviously going to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And then Larry is at home, and the whole thing about he and Jason can't decide where to meet. And Cheryl goes through the mail, and she says,
"Are you expecting something from the city?"
No.
Can I open it?
Sure.
Oh my God.
And there's the ticket with the camera from the light with Larry driving, and all you see is your mother. Cheryl doesn't know it's your mother. Her big fat ass sitting there.
But by the way, in that moment, because remember when she first did it, he turned and he saw it, and then he turned back in disgust.
Right.
Of course, the picture was taken at the moment when he turned and he saw it. So she sees him looking at the ass.
Right. And of course, in typical Curb fashion, we have already established the ash fetish. But it starts somewhere. You don't know where it's going. And then it's all tied up in the end. And yet, when I watch it now, having first seen it, not knowing where it was going, now it all when you see it in retrospect, it's obvious where it's going, but it's not.
Right. Well, it wasn't for me back then. When I read the outlines before the season started, I didn't know where they were going to end. And sometimes I was like blown away that I couldn't believe that he was smart enough to do it that way.
Yeah, reading the outlines is an experience that most people won't have. But when you read it, you just marvel at it. And like, how did he get there? How did he get there?
Yeah, and he's not a savant because off camera, he's supremely intelligent.
Yes.
So
about
it's not
many
like,
things.
Where does he pick this up? It's like this guy at all times, comedically or personally, is super intelligent. And I think I mentioned, but we've made about 50 bets over the years, and no exaggeration, I've never won one of them.
Really?
Oh, no. This is, he has won. I will tell you the flip side. I'm always paying for our valet parking, and he's never paid me back. Like, I give him money for his car. And anyhow.
I was just saying, this is why.
He's always intelligent.
Yeah, but this is why I think Larry is a genius, and I use that word very carefully, because when I read the outlines, and I have comedy brain, you have comedy brain, it's transcendent. I don't know how
he's
he gets
that great
there.
a writer
and
that you don't know when it's coming.
And the transcendence is what makes it genius.
Well,
that
that's
you don't
where
know how
it
he
knocks
got
it
there.
over the edge.
Yeah. And we'll discuss it more next time.
With episode 3, season 2. And I said 2 in a way that might not have sounded good to our listeners, too much of it on the T, but I apologize. And don't forget, you have a money-back guarantee if the show irritates you at any point, which I'm assuming everything I say. Truly, talk about a shame and regret. You think I don't go home from these recordings and fill with shame and regret?
Really?
Yeah.
See, I don't feel that.
Well, of course, because you're not disturbed like I am. I'm envious of you.
We'll see you next time, folks.
Thanks, everybody.